And I remember talking to my nan saying, well, how do you know what you need to do? She said, well, what did you do when you were a kid? And all I did was see something, go home and make it out of Lego. And I'm kind of doing the same thing. I look at something nice and then I go home and I'll come here and make an equivalent. I'll try and make a nice object. After completing my MA, I kind of managed to find myself in the art world, making work and having shows and things like that. But the BA and then the gap and the experience and the working and the making things, and then going back, kind of giving something up to go back to do my MA at Hallam was really great. I don't think I ever sort of stepped out of the art world, if you like. I just stopped. I just realised I was talking myself out of making things that I really wanted to make. Because the focus has always been, I'm at my best, I'm most satisfied when I'm in the middle of making something. So it's always been a focus on that getting as much of that time as I possibly can. I met a chap called Ellis Rudd he'd just retired from being a draftsman. He had made tandems for years and years and years, and I went down to see him and he kind of was thrilled to bits that somebody was, I was thrilled to bits that he was willing to help, and he was thrilled to bits that somebody was interested in what he was doing. But sadly he died 2 years ago. That machine and that machine were his machines, so it's kind of quite nice to carry on making bike items. I made a shed, first of all, with a bench and a vice, and I got some files, and I got a heat source to heat it up for the brazing, and I just set off practicing on bits. And first frame that I made, I set off with the intention to try and make it perfect, but it wasn't perfect. But that's kind of how I learn, if you like. I kind of aim for the best I possibly can, rather than thinking, well, this is the first one, I'll just, and which can be quite disappointing because it's, you know, it's quite a dark art. We set out to try and make the most beautiful thing we possibly could. I kind of started off by making the frames, and then my friend through there, who I went to art college with years ago, said, well, if you make them, I'll paint them. So he's took that particular bit on and he does that bit brilliantly. And then another friend, Tom, who does the graphics. Again, I haven't got those skills. I've got the kind of ideas, but you know, Tom does it a lot better than I could. John paints frame a lot better than I could. It's just you choose your battles and you try and perfect your bit, and hopefully the sum of the parts come together to produce something that's better. You kind of choose your battle and you find people who want to be involved, and luckily, like I say, I love working with people, and luckily bicycles are they like really attract creative, energetic types. You know, you don't really have to, it's not a hard sell. I have had people say, like on Twitter or Facebook or email, saying like, you know, thank you very much. They kind of consider us their mates, really, if you like. We cycle with quite a few of them now and again. Like, I made one for a guy in Japan who, when he was in London, he emailed me saying, do you want a cup of tea? Nice encounter from across the world, just because of a website, an email and a bike. The bike we're building for Hallam is almost a kind of a return to kind of that world that I came from. We're making a bike that you would ride on the velodrome, so very, very minimal, very, very tight, compact angles, kind of uncluttered. Get all the materials in, and then the next bit is to start cutting the tubes to fit together. And then whilst cutting the tubes, you set up the jig to the right angles and the right size, so it holds everything in the right place for us to start cutting tubes and very precisely fitting those tubes to kind of join up the dots, if you like. And once everything's fitting up nicely and straight and the right angles and the right geometry, everything in the right place, you then clean the bits that are going to be brazed, spotlessly clean, and then you tack them all together while they're in the jig. People use flux, but I find Heinz baked beans works a lot better. Let it all cool down, take it out of the jig, check how straight it is on our immaculately flat surface. Inevitably there's going to be a tiny little bit of movement in there, but you can start to control and encourage the frame into like alignment by having a sequence of when you braze. So where you choose to braze first or where you choose to braze last will start to kind of pull the frame into alignment. The kind of elbow grease part of it starts at that point. Then if you get good, you can lay the fillets down very smooth, but they still need a bit of a file and a bit of a polish to kind of get a seamless transition from tube to tube, and that's kind of the labour part of it. And I spend most of my time at that vice doing that, getting them as smooth and as clean and as kind of nice gradient as possible. I paint the bike, and so it's kind of, maybe I'm beginning to fit into both of those worlds, I don't know. When that's all complete, when the fabrication is complete, it then gets spotlessly cleaned and the painting process starts, which can be anything from one day's work to some of the more vibrant paint jobs. It can be in and out of the spray booth for a week. The final coat, the final kind of clear coat, is like just polished to a kind of perfect smooth gloss. Developing the objects that we make is the really satisfying bit for me, and really trying to make something that I'm proud to stand next to.